On Thursday night, the Royal Air Force, the US and other allied countries launched targeted strikes against military facilitated use by the Houthi rebels in Yemen. It was carried out in retaliation after the terror group started targeting international shipping in the Red Sea in the last year, which the rebels claim was in opposition to Israel military action in Palestine. But this escalating situation has confused so many as to who this group is and what exactly has led to this moment. Now, if you do like this sort of content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our talkTV YouTube page. Joining me now to break this down is former British Colonel Hamish de Bretton-Gordon. Hamish, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure.
To kick off, Hamish, who are the Houthis and when did this group start?
Well, the Houthis are a terror group who, for the last few years, have been ruling the Yemen, which is a country on the southern Arabian Peninsula. The Saudi Arabian government have been trying to control them and attack them to prevent cross-border incursions into Saudi itself and further into the Oman. They are a terror group very closely allied to the Hamas terror group in Gaza and also to Hezbollah terror group in Lebanon. They are financed, equipped and trained by the Iranian government. They are a proxy, if you like, of Iran. Iran uses groups like the Houthis and also militias in Iraq and Syria to really spread the influence of Iran. So they are down there at the bottom of the Arabian Peninsula, and where the Black Sea comes into the Indian Ocean and then goes north up to the Suez Canal, that is where their area of influence. And they, in support of Hamas, are claiming that is why they are attacking shipping in the Red Sea and having such a dreadful impact on international trade and political stability in the region and wider.
Hamish, you say that this is backed by Iran, and we obviously know that Iran has been backing Hamas in the attacks since October 7th. So is it accurate to say that Iran is puppeteering these attacks?
Oh, yes, absolutely, entirely. I don't think there's a shadow of a doubt about that. And certainly US President, British Prime Minister and other leaders around the world are well aware and are saying that. Iran has malign influence on these people, and Iran is trying to destabilize this part of the world for their own good and their own sort of style of Islam, if you like. So, yeah, I don't think anybody's in any doubt at all. And sort of slightly further over the horizon, there are the Russians. Putin is delighted that all the attention of the world is on the Middle East at the moment and not with the war crimes that he's committing in Ukraine. So, yeah, it might seem to people who are coming into this who don't generally follow world politics and world news, that how unbelievable that a tyrannical state like Iran can create such mayhem with people like the Houthis, Hamas and Hezbollah. And we are on the end of it, if you like. But sadly, that is the real politique of what is happening in the Middle East at the moment.
What actual attacks have the Houthis been operating in the Red Sea since since last year, and what has the damage been?
Well, at the moment, the damage that the Houthis have inflicted in the Red Sea have been fairly minor. However, they have been using drones, Iranian Shahed drones, to attack shipping. These are sort of $15,000 drones that have, a couple of kilograms of explosives on them. And although they haven't created a lot of damage on these ships, what they have done is created a lot of uncertainty and fear in the international shipping market. And we're hearing that a lot of these cargo ships are now taking a massive route around South Africa to get to Europe and to get to the US, which is adding weeks to their journey. And I've just been seeing a piece that the price of shipping freight is up by 300%. So what they're doing, although not damaging these ships, they're damaging our economy by, inflation increasing, the price of fuel's going to go up, and all the goods, and a lot of these goods are actually coming out of China, are going to be that more expensive. So that's the impact they're having. And that's why it's so important that the UK, US, Australia and others stop these attacks as soon as possible.
Well, of course, because we've seen the aftermath of Russia and Ukraine and the economic debacle that came out of that, with the fuel prices and everything that came out of it that was insane. We're still seeing the aftermath of that. But Hamish, overnight, the US and the UK, as well as other countries, of course, you said Australia launched missile strikes in retaliation against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Can you walk me through what exactly occurred here?
Yes, and this is what we call precision strikes. So no doubt the US and the UK and others will have hoovered up a lot of intelligence over the last few weeks and months. So they will know exactly where these attacks are coming from, the precise location of them. So what was happening last night? A combination of fighter aircraft. We know that there were 4 Typhoon British jets from Cyprus, flew a round trip of several thousand miles, been refueled on the way, using their paveway bombs to take out some of the launch sites and other key command headquarters of the Houthis that are being used to direct these missiles and drones. Also, there are US and Royal Navy ships in the region that possess cruise missiles. Again, these are missiles that can fire hundreds of miles and really land on a sixpence, if you like. You know, they are incredibly accurate. So as long as you have the right intelligence, you can put these missiles and bombs from fighter jets on an absolutely precise position and take out the launch sites for these drones and missiles. There appear to have been plus of 70 type of these attacks overnight. We hear that I think a number of Houthi rebels have been killed. We don't yet know what we call the damage assessment. No doubt that is going on at the moment. And it will really be to see how effective it's been. The British government are suggesting this is an isolated attack, and hopefully very much it will be. But if the Houthis keep firing these missiles, one would expect the precision attacks to keep happening until they are silenced.
Well, if it's not an isolated attack, and we saw the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken say that there will be consequences if the Houthis don't back off. But do you think this could escalate into a situation where there are boots on the ground? We are sending troops over to Yemen?
Boots on the ground from the US and the UK, I think that's highly unlikely. There might be special forces and intelligence operatives possibly on the ground, you know, who knows. But the great thing about these precision weapons, actually, you don't really need boots on the ground. You know, I have personal experience of using these type of weapons in Afghanistan, and actually, as long as you've got the right intelligence, because you can follow them so accurately, see exactly what's happening and control them so precisely, it means that you don't have to put boots on the ground. And I think people need to be reassured. I mean, I know a lot of people are worried about this, but the Houthis, apart from a few Iranian missiles and drones, you know, they don't really threaten the UK or the US apart from that. They are a terror group, I suppose not dissimilar to the Taliban in Afghanistan, but they have these sophisticated weapons that Iran is providing. And one would hope, in conjunction with these precision strikes in Yemen, that the US in particular, supported by its allies, are also politically and diplomatically negotiating and talking with the Iranians to make sure that the Iranians do all they can to stop this, because it's really in their hands. They could stop this now if they wanted to.
Well, going back to the economic impact that this can have, how important is the Red Sea, and how detrimental is the chaos taking place to our global trade?
Well, the Red Sea and the Suez Canal is absolutely fundamental to world trade. 30% of container shipping goes through it, a lot of the oil and gas as well. And if it has to go around the South African Cape, it's adding weeks, it's adding a lot of cost to that shipping. And that is felt in the pockets of people in the UK and the US and elsewhere. So it's crucial that this place remains open. Now, the Red Sea is international waters. You know, international convention dictates that these should be safe and free of impact by people like the Houthis. So it is a crime that they're committing, attacking these, you know, unarmed ships. So it's no surprise, I think, that the British and US navies are in the Red Sea to try and keep it open, because it's all about confidence in the shippers. The big shipping lines obviously don't want to lose any of their ships and don't want to take any risks, but that is fueling inflation. One only saw a few years ago when the Suez Canal was shut for a few weeks when a ship got stuck in it, the impact that that had on world trade. So if the Suez Canal is shut, or if people don't use it for a number of times, it's going to have a global impact. That is why it is so important that this illegal threat from the Houthis in Yemen is stopped absolutely as soon as possible.
What's the likelihood of the Houthis planning on stopping anytime soon? Are they asking for a ceasefire in Israel, or what do they want?
Well, the Houthis have declared support for Hamas, and absolutely, they believe with their terror mind that it is only Hamas that is in the right here, and fighting should stop in Gaza. That is very unlikely to happen at the moment. They say they're only attacking Israeli ships, which is complete rubbish. We know that other ships destined for the UK and the US have been attacked as well. So the Houthis, I think they are just part of the sort of reign of terror directed from Tehran, directed from the Iranians across the Arabian Peninsula at the moment. And the way to silence the Houthis is to destroy their missile launchers and drone launchers. And this appears to be the aim of the American and British governments and their military at the moment.
Just finally, Hamish, do you see China saying anything on this? Obviously, China is a big part of this global trade that occurs in the Red Sea. They will probably take a hit. Do you think that Xi Jinping might call for them to back off?
China has been devastatingly silent in this conflict in the Red Sea, and I haven't heard them comment overnight. But the majority of the trade coming through the Red Sea is containers of Chinese goods destined for Western markets. This is the lifeblood of the Chinese community. If this stops, then it's going to impact the Chinese economy probably more than anywhere else. And China has the second biggest military and the biggest navy in the world. They could join this coalition and they could have a huge impact. They have influence all over the Middle East and Africa and elsewhere through their sort of Belt and Road programs, that they could really make a difference here. So one would hope that the Chinese will get involved in a positive fashion sooner rather than later.
Hamish, I know I did say finally, but I do want to ask you one question. You and I have been speaking about so many wars and so many global affairs that have been taking place in the last few weeks, and we've obviously now got this situation happening with the Houthis in Yemen. We've got Russia and Ukraine. We've got Hamas and Israel. As someone who has been at the front and centre of international conflicts, what do you make of the time in history that we're at right now?
Well, we're at a really challenging time, and that is probably to understate it. But I was heavily involved in the Syrian conflict, trying to save lives of civilians there. And I take a little bit of solace from it. People will remember the Obama red line in 2012, when Obama said if Assad used chemical weapons, the US and the UK would strike very heavily. When Assad used chemical weapons in August 2013, the UK and the US decided not to strike and appease Assad. And 10 years later, Assad is still in power. However, eventually in 2018 and 2019, the US and the UK did do precision strikes like the ones we've seen overnight on the Syrian chemical weapons program, and that stopped immediately. So I'm hoping that politicians in this country and the US actually have learned from that if you act very quickly and precisely with overwhelming force, you can prevent these things becoming much worse. And I am hoping that this swift action will hold the Houthis and prevent the Middle East going up in flames, because that, along with what's happening in Ukraine, and I am more worried about Ukraine, I'm more worried if Russia prevails in Ukraine, because I'm pretty certain if they do, then NATO and Britain will be fighting Russia in Europe in the next couple of years. But if we can hold down the fires in the Middle East, if we can hold and ensure that Ukraine prevails, and Britain's announcement of another £2.5 billion worth of aid to Ukraine is a good step forward, then hopefully we can step off the edge of what to a lot of people I know are worrying looks a little bit like Armageddon. Lots of ifs in there, absolutely. But what I've learned to being on the battlefields of the world for the last 36 years, if you're demonstrative, if you act quickly and strike hard, you can frequently prevent much worse things down the line.
Hamish to Bretton-Gordon, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure.